Hey, Talon. Yeah, thanks for joining me on this episode of Pipeline to Profitability, the podcast for home service professionals. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Service Success Academy. I sincerely hope you get massive value from this podcast with our expert guests. If you're a home service, plumbing, or drain business owner or manager, and you want to learn how to generate more revenue from your existing plumbing and drain calls without the complicated or pushy sales tactics, head to swipemydrainbusiness.com to learn more. So today we have Chad Love, the founder and owner of Chad Love Services in North Carolina. Chad's been in the service industry for 25 years. His goal is to help grow companies and people to the highest level through proven systems and leadership. Let's bring Chad into the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Chad. This is really exciting for me to finally get you on. I know you're a busy man and you've got plenty happening at Chad Love. So tell us a little bit about what's going on, my man.
Well, we're just outside Charlotte, North Carolina here. I know you are worldwide with the Australia and all the stuff with obviously growing worldwide businesses. But at Chad Love Services, I am a uh, a passive, I would say as passive as I want to be owner at this point. So I can get into a little bit more detail with that, but we do HVAC is our main service that we provide. We do duct cleaning, and we're adding an electrical division currently. So we are rapidly growing. We have a team of almost 45 teammates now, and we are building a juggernaut here in North Carolina.
I love it. I love it. What's that on the wall, sir? What's that behind you? I'm trying to read it. What is that?
So that's our in there. It's got a little bit of a little bit of that's just Chad Love Services. Our logo is orange. Obviously, we got bright orange trucks, and we have people stop us all the time. They're like, "Hey, man, I see you guys everywhere," and I'm like, "Well, you can't miss a big orange truck going down the road." So we're proud of our logo. It means it's one of the same. Our brand here in Concord, Charlotte area is really strong because we've decided that 5-star service was exactly what we wanted to. We wanted a level of excellence that was really hard to do for other companies. Like we wanted to take the bar higher, and we have the most 5-star reviews in our county and where we're at. So we're excited about continuing to grow our brand.
I love it. I love it. I love your brand, by the way. And it's, yeah, it really stands out, that orange and everything you're about. Now, we have met through mutual friends and through Landon Brewer, Louis Bruno. And, I've known these guys I've probably known Landon a little bit longer, probably 10 years. I met Landon through my involvement with Best Practice, Service Roundtable, and other groups.
Yeah.
And then I met Louis at an event. It was probably, it would have been 7 or 8 years ago before he had his little moment. And by the way, I had a similar moment myself. So when anyone in the US says, what happened, I usually say, well, I had a Louis Bruno moment. And and then if someone asks me, well, what did Lewis go through? I just say, well, he had an Alan Ferguson moment. So it's interesting. I don't want to get into that too much, but we've had some tailwinds. We've had some stuff thrown at us, but I think, I mean, you know the boys well. I think when we go through the tough times, it really shows us that the crazy side of the industry, but there's so much good in the industry, and if it wasn't for those two guys, what they're currently doing now is changing the industry, and I think it's 2024 will probably be one of the biggest changes that we'll ever see, in my view. So I'd like to get your perspective on that, Chad.
Yeah, so I think what we're kind of referring to is our platform partners group is where we're really changing the paradigm of the industry. I know Landon and Lewis extremely well, and the thing about both of those guys is that they have a heart for helping people and making changes, and they're very different in how their approach to helping people is. But the neat thing is they both have the heart behind it. Platform Partners has been an amazing journey for us. We've been on the platform now. I guess I'll kind of go back a little bit and give you a little bit of color in the lines, the corners for you, so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. I worked with Lewis primarily just him alone. I actually sent him a Facebook message and DM'd him and said, "Hey man, notice you probably have some experience. I'd like to bounce a few ideas off of you." And he responded back, and we started a little bit of a kind of just a one-on-one kind of, hey, just having some conversations, maybe a little 30 minutes here and there for about 3 years or so. And wow, just the wealth of knowledge and understanding of the call by call process, and being able to understand what the math means in a business, which is hands down when you unlock what the math is supposed to be, it makes business a lot easier, because you know when you're profitable and when you're not, and you know the levers to pull. So I worked with Lewis for quite a while, and then I met Landon, and then they started the platform group. I guess it's been maybe about 18 months ago or so. And Lewis, I think Lewis and Landon both kind of wanted to really have some traction with what they were building before they brought me on. But because they know I was probably going to have some hard questions for them, and made sure that it was going to be we had the right engine behind it and the right heart behind what we were doing. And I've been on the platform now. We actually went to, I guess, about 7 months ago, and I had already and just for those who are not real sure what the platform is, I'll just give you if it's okay, I'll give you maybe like a little 10,000-foot overview. Is that okay?
Oh, fantastic.
So the platform it's a network of companies that come together, and we have access to what I would consider legendary cutting edge level tools that give us a back end view of, and it doesn't matter what kind of CRM you're on, doesn't matter where you're at in the business, from a $1 million company or below to a $50 million company. It gives you access to tools and a higher level of coaching and management for those tools to be able to maximize your value of your company, and make sure that as you ascend and try to, and a lot of companies, I think one of the things that I've benefited from it really fast and really quickly is being able to go from being a very, very hands-on owner to much more of a passive owner, which is, increases the value of my company tremendously, because it doesn't revolve around just me. If I'm not here, it still runs, because we have the management systems in place to be able to know one call at a time if we're actually making money and being profitable with those. But the platform has been amazing. The tools that we have, that the data that it pulls to be able to see in real time if you're making money. And not only that, it's just being able to have access to systems that are pre-built, that everybody on the platform is able to run at the same exact level, where my company here in close to Charlotte, North Carolina, and then you have one in Australia, we can help run each other's company, but because we're all running within the same lines, and the same, we have the same mentality of what the business is supposed to be. And it's been absolutely amazing. And the people that I've talked to on the platform, because I do some consulting with the platform as far as making sure that there's implementations happening well, that everything's going smooth. And you would be amazed to hear some of the conversations of, it's really like guys who have done service work for 10 and 15 years and owned companies and really were, in all intents and purposes, very successful, have gotten on the platform, and literally it changes the game for them so that they can start to see a vision of being able to exit their company at some point and not be a lifer behind the wheel of that machine, you know?
It's all about that visibility, isn't it, Chad? And just on Australia, yes, we have several companies now from Australia in the platform. There'll be a few more. I've got a few show of hands of other contractors that want to go through the same journey, and I'd like to dig into that a little bit deeper in a minute and maybe hone in on the main areas that you've got the biggest gain. But
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of talk about virtual ride-alongs and
Yep.
virtual call management. And look, we our company, which I was involved with at the beginning, I sold the company. Wasn't a favorable sale because we had some issues that we had to resolve. But I think we were one of the first companies that were on the platform when it first started. But then when the owners of my company weren't interested, I thought, all right, well, I sort of stepped aside, but I haven't lost that connection. I've stayed very close with Lewis, Landon, and Stephen, and everyone involved. But now we've decided to step back in the game and get some Australian companies on. I've also got a few companies within the US, also targeting Canada. So let's maybe dig into what's some of the key areas besides the amazing dashboards and the numbers and having the expertise of Landon and Lewis. So where is some of the biggest gains that you've seen, Chad, with your involvement with platform partners?
So I would say the very first, and you stated it, was the virtual ride-alongs and the system that goes along with that, being able to, because I think we live in a social media environment where you have these catchphrases and people say, oh, it's call by call management and virtual ride-along. What you typically find, and what I've found, is that buzzword is only as good as the actual system that you have that runs that. And you got to have the right people involved. And that's been the biggest lift that we've had in transparency of understanding when we have a phone, the technician gets to the home, I can in real live time be able to coach and adjust based on what the needs of that specific homeowner and that system needs. If I have maybe I have the wrong guy on that call, for example, I know in live time that I may need to get a little bit more experienced guy out there, and we're able to through the virtual ride-along system that comes along with the platform partners, we're able to see live that, okay, well, we can maximize the profit on this job and continue to hold the level of service. For example, I'll give you a quick example is that we had a newer technician. He's only been doing it about a month and a half, and he's already, based on the fact that, we're able to do it really quickly, train him to do specific checks on a system to be able to do what he's capable of doing. But then once we seen the pictures are coming over in live time, I'm able to send a more experienced technician to that home, and that customer end up purchasing a $13,000 system because of it wasn't because the technician, the first one was great, nor was the second one. It was the system involved that helped us maximize and be able to get that customer the solution that they wanted. So that's been the biggest lift for us, has been the call by call management slash virtual ride along that we run with our call by call team.
I love it, Chad. And I'd like to, a couple of words that you've mentioned there, and I want to sort of go in a little bit deeper. So you've continually mentioned the word system, and it got me thinking of, I've got a fella by the name of Michael Gerber coming on the podcast within the next few weeks, who is probably, his book, The E-Myth, is probably the Bible when it comes to systems. And I know Ken Goodrich has partnered with Michael E. Gerber with a book on HVAC, the myth for HVAC contractors, or sorry if I haven't got the name right, but the word systems has come up a lot. And also one thing I noticed about you, and I hope you don't mind me embarrassing you here, is you're a phenomenal leader, and I could sense that because I've worked on, I owned a leadership company in Australia, and I partnered with my business partner was one of the top leadership coaches in Australia, and I didn't see myself as a strong leader. So I thought, well, what better way than to engage a leadership coach and then create a leadership company, which was specifically targeted for contractors, because most contractors need to understand what leadership is.
Right.
So there's a couple of things there. Like, one is everyone needs to have a mentor, a coach, someone that's you've got to identify where's your weaknesses and where do you need help, and I feel it doesn't matter what size company, everyone needs that level of leadership. And I know you get that through the platform. So if I was to put this to you, what's more important, getting the right people or having the right systems in place? Put you on the spot there, my man.
So I think that's a tough one. There's a thing about getting the right people, but I have a rule that I live by, is I want to be able to coach people up. And empower them to be their very best. One of our core values here is to be better than great. And the reason we put be better than great is because I just believe that that's a mantra that you're actively pursuing being your very, very best version. And part of the platform that I found is that in the system of the management portion, I've been able to empower my team even to a higher level than I was before. We have managers here. We call them coaches. I have an installation coach. I have a service coach, and I have an office staff coach. And basically what that does is it allows their mindset to be in the place of, well, I have teammates that work with me, and my job is to maximize what they're doing and empower them to do it. So it's we have a 9 a.m. huddles with my key managers. I don't have to actually be on those. They're all recorded, and I can go back remotely and watch those if I'm not in the office, or I could be on a fishing boat somewhere and watch and make sure that my team is doing what they're supposed to be doing. But they come in there and they come in with ideas of, okay, we look at yesterday, what went great, what was off a little bit. We have specific. We leave that meeting knowing exactly how to execute the plan to not either carry on the success from yesterday or make the adjustment so that we can win today. So I would say this. I would say it's more important that you coach the team that you have, and then you actively have a system that allows you to top grade for higher talent, because I'm a firm believer that you can have the most talent in the world, but if you are not capable of executing a good plan and maximizing who you are and your skill set, you'll never get to where the highest peaks that you were capable of.
Love it. Love it. I want to challenge everyone that's listening to this podcast, and, talked about Michael E. Gerber. I read his book. Actually, my very first coach that I had was the E-Myth, and we're
Hmm.
going back 25 years, and I did 12 months coaching with the E-Myth back then, and I'm sure it's changed a lot. It was still Michael E. Gerber. I'd read the book, and look,
Hmm.
the years might be out a little bit, but I read the book, and one of the things that fascinated me was Michael talks about McDonald's, how
Hmm.
now, if we think about McDonald's, anyone that's ever worked there, and my older daughter Taylor spent some time there, you learn systems, right?
Yep.
Now, if we look at McDonald's, do they hire the best people available, or do they hire people and then train them on the systems? I want everyone to think about that with the
Yep.
growth of your company, because I get this a lot. Nearly every podcast I've done, well, not everyone, but there's been a lot of podcasts with service professionals that
Yep.
say, "I can't get good people," and I hear this a lot. Um, and maybe when in your quest to grow people or to bring people into your
Hmm.
culture, which is
Yep.
also a very important topic, maybe you're
Hmm.
looking for the wrong traits. Nearly everyone, like plumbing, I coach plumbers and drain cleaners, and I
Hmm.
just can't get good plumbers. And well, maybe you need to pull back on that skill a little bit, because you can give someone that skill, and
Right.
depending on your licensing. But I think we've
Hmm.
got it wrong when it comes to how we grow our companies. I think we're looking for the wrong people, personally. That's my view anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that if you have the right system, and I've read both of those books, by the way, the E Myth, and I've read the HVAC one that Ken Goodrich, which is amazing. Like that, we have something in that space for the service industry to be able to, because everybody knows, I think Gettle and Goodrich really set the standard and the bar for what that looks like in growing a massive company and being able to have it very systematized. I
Yeah.
mean, and I think when you're talking about hiring the right people, and I don't disagree, I think that hiring the right character traits is more important because one, they have to be a culture fit. Like if you hire bad people, you're just not going to be able to turn them into good people, right? But if you have the right training system and you have the right management system, which are part of the platform group, if you have those two items, then what you have is it's just about the number of good applicants that you can get, and it's not about the skill set. It's really about their mindset. Are they a winner? Can they talk to customers? Like if I put you, if we have a little thing that we do where we put them in the room with just the random people, and we just see if they actually talk to each other while they're um in the midst of a bunch of strangers. And what you find is the people who can talk to a stranger and carry on conversation typically make good service people because they're in customers' homes and they're having conversations with them. And we just train them specifically on, this, check this first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from there, we're able to take the system and allow it to work. But all of those tools and stuff, it really does come down to, are you able to coach and manage within the system? Because a lot of times, from previous, hires that we've had, Alan, I would rather have a new person than one that's got a lot of experience because
Yeah, I'm
they are
with you,
much
Chad.
more coachable than somebody who's been doing it for a really long time. You still need a good mix of both, obviously, but you got to have the right people. But if you don't have the right system, it'll show up really quick.
I look back at some of the phenomenal leaders. I had some great leaders in my company that used to challenge me, and I've always said I like to be challenged, because
Hmm.
if you haven't got someone challenge you on your own belief, you'll never grow, right? And it doesn't matter what stage you're at in your career or your life. So some of the best leaders that I've had in my companies were, some of them were even apprentices. They were just young guys. They just had amazing attitudes and amazing leadership skills, even at that lower level. So, and people admired them and enjoyed working for them. So, This is also something too, in the US, not so much in Australia. Our education and laws are really strict. To actually get a plumbing license, you got to go to school for 4 years, and then you got to spend another couple of years to be licensed. It's really crazy. But I've
Right.
noticed in the US, there is schools like my business partner Joe Cunningham has HVAC and plumbing training schools where 10 days straight he can take a journeyman and put him to a certain level. I don't want to talk too much about what
Yeah.
level, but you can get 80% of your skills that someone needs are learned. So if you were to say, right, moving forward, we've got a company of your size, a lot of the learning, when you think about it, Chad, is happens in the field when they're actually doing the work. You can
Right.
you can do the classroom learning, but the real learning always happens out there in front of the customer and
Hmm.
out there. So if you were to say adapt a model. You can do this with drains, drain cleaning, plumbing, electrical, heating and cooling, where you hire purely on the right attitude and the willingness to, because if you bring someone on and they've got all the skills um, to do the air conditioning work, but
Hmm.
they've got a shit attitude where no one likes them, it's going to ruin a really good culture. So I just want to change everyone's thinking of we can't get good technicians, which I want to say in the nicest way possible, it's a load of crap. It's just
Right.
not true. It's a limiting belief that everyone in this industry really needs to look at,
Yeah.
and stop saying it, because there's plenty of talent out there. You just
Hmm.
ain't fishing in the right places, right? And I notice you like fishing, so you
Yep.
understand what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you're spot on with that. I think that hiring good people is about well, one, what are you attracting, right? Like, you want great people, then you need to be a great person, and then bringing the right people in. I mean, I would challenge everybody that is watching the podcast. If you're not training or have some type of training that's built, then are you expecting to hire in, all like superstars that already know exactly how you do things? That's just never happened. I've never hired anyone that came in and, did it exactly the same way we do. So even, bringing in somebody with no experience, we take people all the time with, we have guys that come from Chick-fil-A and come from Amazon and these different places. And matter of fact, I got one guy. He's been with me 8 months now, and he'll be over $1 million technician this year. And the reason why is because one, he's a right fit for us, but he also has been trained by us. So he does it one way. He goes at 5-star service every time he goes to a customer's house. He's a good communicator. And then whenever, like, he literally was doing, he went from brand new to running service calls within about 30 days, and being profitable at it because of the training system that we go through. So there is a there is people, I could fill up the doors and have 40 people here every we do hiring events Tuesday and Wednesdays, and I could fill them up if I could buy trucks fast enough. I could fill them up 40 people every Tuesday and Wednesday here with brand new people that really want to get into the trades, because everybody can see that the trades are, I mean, the income of the trades is not going away. Where, because I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I don't care how many computers they build, they're not going to be able to build them to go under the house and service these the plumbing and the heating and air systems and replace us. So we got a good industry going, but I think that it's an amazing opportunity if you have the right mindset of hiring people who are willing to learn.
I love it, Chad. I think we've been hanging around the right people for long enough to know. And I learned this through implementing call by call management, which we didn't call it that. It was around 2013 for me when Joe Cunningham, I first brought him to Australia. We put on public events. We actually called it the perfect service call. And then I adapted that to the perfect service call for drains. And that was just taking our best communicator who could
Hmm.
make the best sales, not necessarily the best technician, and
Yeah.
paired him with possibly our best technicians that weren't great communicators and didn't feel comfortable. And when we realized that those two can work so powerfully together,
Hmm.
it was amazing the results. We doubled our business in 18 months. You know, we went from like 600K a month to well over 1 million a month just by implementing that one change. So,
Yeah.
and I know there's companies within the platform that are getting that sort of growth and then some. And just after talking to you, for this short period of time, I can see that you're one of those companies that are going to have that phenomenal growth. So, um, love it. Listen, I want to just say everyone I get on the podcast, I always ask them if they've got a book recommendation or a podcast recommendation or something that might encourage all of our listeners. And then I'm going to
Hmm.
let you sort of conclude however you would like.
Yeah. I think as far as a podcast or a resource or a book, I'm a learner by that's my nature. I learn. Um, there is a active thing that I do every day to try to always learn something new and implement it. I always find that that's the hard part. We learn a lot of things, but implementing is always the toughest issue. So I would. A book that I typically go back to, I will reread books because it sometimes the second time through is kind of like when you put leftovers in the refrigerator. When you get them out the second time, they're just a little bit better that second time. The book Relentless an amazing book by Tim Grover. I would highly recommend that. That's about execution and being amazing, and learning how to be great. Obviously the E-Myth, any of the E-Myth books are just absolutely like they will change how you look at your business, and understand what systems are. I would recommend, if you're not a part of the Einstein Prime Network group that's on Facebook, we do a podcast board meeting every Wednesday. I would recommend going to that. We have some really deep dives into budget, systems, call by call management, virtual ride alongs. We answer your questions of anything really business related on there. We do our best to answer all of those. So and you have some of the greatest minds on that. I mean, Landon and Lewis are typically there. Their minds are way beyond where I live at. I execute at a high level, but I hang out with smarter people than I am. So that's typically how I do it. So those would be a couple of recommendations that I would give you. And obviously the pipeline, the profitability would be probably the first place I would start if I was going to be looking at a podcast. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Look, I'm going to have to get the links to these board meetings and that you talked about and put them in the show notes. But yeah, I think that's a great place to start. And I do know a little bit of a plug for the Einstein Prime group and
Yeah.
platform partners is they do have a free platform that you can get access to, because we haven't talked about the systems that we actually use to
Hmm.
drive the virtual call management, which is the Slack channel. And I've seen it in action. We've been using it for several years. It's absolutely changed I've been in the industry for 30 plus years, and my eyes have opened right up to what is possible just by the way that that communication channel using Slack between
Hmm.
the technician, the call by call manager, the senior service advisor, or whatever your titles are. So it's amazing what's going on. And I want to thank you, Chad, for being part of this podcast. And yeah, it's this been absolutely fantastic. And I thank you for all your wisdom that you've shared with our listeners.
Thanks, brother. It's been great. Yeah, I can send you the link to the Einstein Prime Network free tools. I know we didn't get into a lot of the details of the platform, but I would just, as a shameless plug, I will just say that hey, the Prime platform platform partners group has changed my paradigm of how my family will proceed in the journey of being able to, at some point, whether it's exiting completely or just being a passive owner, having access to all those tools and to how the management groups work, and having access to amazing, bright minds that can literally in 1 second help you change the paradigm for where you're at. So, yeah, it's an amazing group.
I love it. All right. Thanks very much, Chad. I really appreciate that. And thank you for everyone that's joined us on today's Pipeline to Profitability podcast. So take care, my friend, and I'll look forward to catching you up in an event soon.
Thanks, Alan. Have a good day, brother.
My pleasure.